Major fallout of the shutdown in America. For the first time, the world's largest economy is going to remain unrepresented at a meeting of the World Economic Forum at Davos. The summit at Davos in Switzerland is taking place at a time when the world is searching for new headwinds to ride out of the economic slowdown. Trade tensions between the US and China, the challenging task of pushing the world towards a fourth industrial revolution, climate change and rising protectionism and militarization are on the table as the world's political and industrial elite sit down for talks next week in the Alpine resort. But the biggest talking shop of all, America, would be absent from the high table. The White House said that the US delegation will not be traveling to Davos. Trump's press secretary, Sarah Sanders, said that this was because of the 27-day-long government shutdown over funding for a border wall. Sanders said, and I quote, "Out of consideration for the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay and to ensure his team can assist as needed, President Trump has cancelled his delegation's trip to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland," unquote. Now, President Trump had already cancelled his own trip to the summit, dashing hopes of a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping and a possible end to the trade war. U.S. Finance Minister Steven Mnuchin, Foreign Minister Mike Pompeo, Commerce Minister Wilbur Ross, Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Coordination Chris Liddell were among those scheduled to visit Switzerland for the annual conference in Trump's absence. Now that stands cancelled as well. Reports say that overseas trips for senior officials could be difficult to organize at a time when government workers have been furloughed. The US decision is another setback for the World Economic Forum. Earlier, UK Prime Minister Theresa May cancelled her trip to the summit. She is tackling the Brexit crisis and struggling to build consensus on it at home.
Those whose jobs rely on our trade with the EU need that clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. It could have big ramifications for those trade talks with China. There are some trade talks with China scheduled for later this month, January the 30th and January the 31st. Here in Washington, D.C., this decision to cancel the trip to Davos puts huge pressure now on those talks in Washington. Of course, we're in the middle of this 90-day trade truce period where the US has said it won't impose any more tariffs on China. But if we get to the end of this 90-day period and the US and China can't come up with some sort of new trade deal, there's a whole raft of new tariffs due to come into place. You know, the world markets are pretty nervous about that prospect. So, you know, every possible meeting that the US and China can have at the moment is crucial to finding a way out of this trade war that the two sides find themselves in. Just one other point as well about this shutdown, it's affecting staff levels at the US Trade Office. They're currently operating at about a third of their usual staffing levels. So, you know, that's having an impact on the amount of staff who can work and advise these senior officials on trade deals. So, you know, the longer this shutdown goes on, it's not just affecting domestic policies now, it really is spreading over into international US policies and their relationships with other countries around the world.